Hey all, Board Game Rants here where you'll find everything solo tabletop gaming and more. We've got Cooper Island here, solo perspective review coming. Going to show you a little bit about the game, or maybe a lot of it. Then on the other side I'll talk about what I think about it. Here we go. And welcome to Cooper Island. Here on Cooper Island, which is, I guess we were out exploring in our ship and our dog started barking and was getting mad at us if we changed the ship's direction, and eventually guided us to the island of said dog, Cooper. And consequently, that is who we're going to be playing against. When you play solo, you're playing against your dog, which I guess is, I don't know, your opponent is man's best friend, your best friend, whatever. Anyway, so here we've got, this is a worker placement game. And you get this wonderful, very cool looking center island piece. And then each player will get their own peninsula. If you're playing solo, you just have, well, your own peninsula and that's it. This is where you'll be placing your worker pawns to take an action. And you've got the circle ones, which are your normal ones. Then you've got your square ones, which are more powerful and give you access to either more actions or sometimes some discounts. But you only start off the game with 2 regular Joe Schmo workers. And there's actions A through H. So there's basically that many actions you can take. And you can't really block each other so much in this game. You can block yourself. You can't take the same action twice with like the same circle or square. But you can take an action that someone else has taken, like for instance if Cooper took an action there and then I later wanted to take an action, well, I have to spend some resources, or a resource I should say, to be able to take that action because he beat me to it. But other than that, you don't really get blocked out of any actions with this worker placement game. It's a little bit, I've gotten spoiled. As a solo player, you can typically orient your board so that you can read all of the worker placement actions, as opposed to multiplayer where someone gets the side view or someone gets to look at everything upside down. But no, here the tables are turned and that's upside down. But whatever, I've been spoiled for too long. I still get what I'm doing out here. And this all looks kind of crazy, right? So you've got this set of actions. You've got this, which is kind of building an income boat. This helps you set out different terrains on your island. You've got here, you can build buildings. This helps with your cartographer track, which helps you kind of manipulate the land here. Get you some resources. Here, you can change your statue or your runes that are on your peninsula. You have to get out to them, and then you can change them into statues, but you have to clear them off your board in order to kind of keep growing out there. Here, again, allows you to place tiles, which change your whole layout of your island. And then here is where you can go to the harbor master and you can get yourself a little crate lid, which allows you to take extra actions. It gives you points. So, I mean, that's the gist of kind of everything there. So you've got your board here, and you land on your island, and you've got 2 ships. You got a ship with 2 sails. It's going to kind of go that way around the board, counterclockwise. You've got your ship with 1 sail. It's going to go clockwise around the board. You got Cooper here is competing with us with 1 little sail ship. That's going to go around and possibly represent more points for Cooper as you're playing. And you, at the end of the game, you want to have more points. And you start off with this 1 little meadow with 1 little piece of wood. At the end of each round, you do have to feed your workers. So, a la so many other games, maybe Agricola or whatever, you got to feed your workers. But the game is played over 5 rounds, and that's what these cards keep track of. And this harbor master, which card it is on, keeps track of. Once the harbor master is down here, at the end of that round, you are done with the game and you score. And each round, you're going to have a certain number of workers to take actions with. In the beginning, you only have 2 workers, but you can get more. You can get more workers, unlocking them by achieving certain feats, like building 2 income boats, building 2 buildings, building 2 statues. Once you do that, then you can basically choose one of these actions over here that you want to do. Do you want to take a circle worker? Do you want to take a square worker? Do you want to just get 2 helm points? So those are basically your victory points. But your helm points also, HELM, helm points, move your ships. And that's how you're going to, this is actually sort of a scoring marker. So wherever your ships end up on this board is going to help you determine your score. It's the biggest part of your score, actually. And each time you move, 1 helm point gets you to a sandbar either side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you get to, there's this little thing up here which is sort of detached. But once you get your 5th helm point with 1 ship, then you get a logbook, and that logbook represents 5 points for you because you moved 5 times. Anyway, and you just keep going back around to here. Well, you go from there to here, and you go another one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get another logbook, and that's how you're going to be keeping track of your logbooks over here. That's how you're going to be, of course, each time you get a little bonus too with those logbooks. That's how you're going to keep track of the biggest part of your score. And so you've got, so the biggest part of the game and the most fun part is everybody gets this sort of starting set of tiles here that you're going to be putting out on your board, and you're going to follow some basic rules. Let's see here, of always, having tiles adjacent to each other. This is going next to that one, so that's legal. This has water around it, so it has to go and end up in a water space. And but I couldn't just start out here in no man's land because I have to build my way out there. So there's your basic rules where that's concerned. But one of the cool, not so basic rules is, well, let's see here. Let me do a little demo. So right now, the biggest thing to pay attention to, one of the biggest things is whatever resource is out there, its value is equal to the height of the tile it's sitting on. So in this case, that's 1 food. Now, when I place this out there, it would come each time you place a tile out, you get your resources. You can always take those resources and you can store them over here in your little storage spot. But now, if I build a tile, you are allowed to build them on same. So I could place this and build it right there. And in that way, now the little settlement represents cloth, and then the little meadows represent food. Now those are each worth 2. So I've got essentially 2 cloth and 2 food. And you can really build up and create some pretty awesome value stuff, which you're going to need to build some of these things. Like to clear off buildings so that you can store more stuff, you're going to need to build maybe small buildings, large buildings, that's these guys. Eventually, maybe this fortress, which gives you some benefits. But we're talking for this fortress, you need 6 wood, 3 cloth, 3 stone, 3 gold. And the only way you're really going to get that is by exploring, and in exploring, building up as well as out to create the resources you're going to need to be able to do stuff like that. And got this cool little thing, this little sort of like a landscape manipulator here, your cartographer, in which for different things that you do, you're going to be able to manipulate the landscape and help you build up or out as needed. And you're going to be able to build these income boats, which each round, and there's 5 rounds again, each round thereafter they're built, they're going to give you little bits of income according to what's above the hands here. You start off with a certain ability each time these 2 things occur. Basically allows you to build up your island each round. That's what you start with. You got coins as a resource, cloth, wood, food. Remember, you got to feed your workers. Stone, gold. I think I got to all of them. Anyway, so all those resources are going to help you build stuff. And then these things, you do enough of a certain type of action, you're going to be able to get more workers out. And then at the end of the game, you're going to score and see if you beat Cooper. So over here, Cooper looks pretty complicated here for Cooper, but it's really not. There's a bunch of cards here, but basically Cooper on Cooper's turn, what you're going to be doing is flipping over a card, and it's going to tell you where to put one of Cooper's pawns, and it's just going to kind of get in your way. So D1, so I look over here, D1 is right there. D2 would be the square thing. But so I put that there, and now if I want to take that action, it's going to cost me a resource there. But the only other thing too is it just gives you some instructions on how Cooper could get extra points there. So Cooper on difficulty level 3, which is I'm playing, there's 4 different difficulties. First, the base score you have to beat is 25. And then this, you could get more helm points, which would move his boat. and however many more times the boat's moved is how many more points Cooper's going to get. So there's little instructions there, but they're all kind of same. And when there's a lot of text here, but once you've read through all this text, it's really very self-explanatory. And then a lot of this text is just repeat from one card to the next. There's a lot of similarities in the words. So you realize you're just going to be putting a pawn out there that kind of gets in your way, and then maybe or maybe not moving the boat basically one or two times, or not at all. And that's basically all it is when you're playing against Cooper. And up here, depending on what you've done, you're going to be able to manipulate this deck in certain ways, which is very cool. I kind of like that. But ultimately, Cooper is an impeding kind of AI player. It just sort of puts stuff out there and gives you a little bit of somewhat of a set goal of victory points to win, but it can be manipulated a little bit. And that's playing Cooper. And you're just kind of going to go back and forth, back and forth. And when you build buildings, little cards over here, they build buildings, small buildings, large buildings, going to give you some extra abilities. Here's your final scoring card, which again is going to have to do with how many helm points you've got and how well you did with your end game scorings. Did I even go over that? This little area here is little end game scoring cards that give you some points depending on how you played your game. And that's about it for Cooper Island. So there you have it. Cooper Island is a beautiful game, and by the designer Ode, which I didn't quite realize. I thought this was the first game I'd played by Ode, but I guess Lagrange, which I played, and I liked. That was some time ago. A farming game, I think, if I'm recalling correctly. I liked how that was put together, and so then this I thought was my first experience with the designer. Turns out it wasn't. Overall, a good experience. Thematically, I think it looks and comes out in this game, even though it's a worker placement Euro game. You know, and it has a lot to do with how it looks. I mean, it looks beautiful. Everything's very vivid. And as you're creating this peninsula, you're part of the island, you get this topography that kind of grows and changes and becomes 3D, which is pretty awesome. And then you have, these abilities to terraform with your cartographer track. And so it does come out to me that you're exploring this island, and as you do, and you delve further into this island, and you develop your island, you cultivate it, you get better and better value resources. And so, and I think it's pretty interesting how that's all put together. It's not a mechanic that I come across frequently. I'm struggling to think of another game that sort of does it like that. It's kind of cool. A lot of times it's just about, how many resources you can get. But here, it's just that one cube can represent a bunch of different values based on where it ends up on your island and how high up. It's kind of fun, kind of cool. So the mechanics that's my favorite mechanic of the game. But they all kind of do this thing. I mean, if you've played something like Gaia Project, if you've played something like, I don't know, any game where you sort of have the ability during the game to develop your income, and then and then each round thereafter you enjoy that income and you can build it in certain streams, if you will, then you've got a game too that typically will have with worker actions that are limited. You're going to have some free actions. Depending if you're playing a Vita Lacerda game, they're called executive actions. If you're playing other types of games, including this one, they're just free actions. So you've got your two that you start with, these two workers that you can go out, but then there's ways to get more workers, which, by the way, is kind of the key to this game. When I first played it, I scored 12 points. When you look on easy level to try and beat Cooper, it's like it starts at 20. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the, how, 5 rounds, it just seemed so oddly implausible, even though I knew it had to be, it could be done. It was just, I remember finishing that first game and thinking, I couldn't get anywhere. Well, that's because I was putting the carriage before the horse there. You've got to get workers. You very generally just got to focus and get yourself an extra 1 or 2 workers, which exponentially changes things there by the 4th and 5th round. So, I mean, you have a lot that you can do. But if you only, run around with 2 workers for most of the game, you just ain't going to get nowhere. You really aren't. So after I got past that little speed bump, I started scoring kind of regularly in the 30 range. And I think it was in the demo I was showing you a game that I was like level 3. It's pretty cool. You can set it when you're playing against Cooper. You can kind of choose a direction, a theme to the game. That's your that first card all the way on the left is kind of how you your strategy card, and there's 4 of them, so you can kind of go 4 different strategies to give you little extra boosts. And then there's the difficulty level, and there's 4 of those, and so so there's some variability there, but the mechanics of Cooper are very straightforward. It looks way more complicated. It's a lot of verbiage there, but once you've read through it once, and you played your first game, it's very easy. It's not like an AI that really is thinky. It just sort of reacts to certain things. You set up his little action card deck in a way that has to do with whatever strategy you took on, so it kind of counters that a little bit, but it's not a complicated AI. It just sort of gets in your way. It impedes you by putting workers out and kind of makes things cost a little more. That's about it. So fairly straightforward AI, and not my style and my preference, but very easy to implement here and get going with the game. And the mechanics, though, continue to just be kind of seamlessly tied together in cool ways, where you got your worker placement and all these free actions you can take, especially that cartographer action to be able to manipulate the landscape out there, but also being able to exchange resources out. If you've got a load of resources, but you really need a different type of resource, there's ways, these exchanges that you can make. So very cool, and that it all feeds together in just very satisfying play. The variability, however, I feel like is just, there's not a whole bunch of different ways to go. That's why there's really only 4 strategy cards, I think, because there's really only, there's not many strategies to take on. And I feel like once you've sort of explored a strategy and you've scored, you had yourself a good game, it's sort of like, okay, well, I'm done with that. I've got the cards, the building cards, the small buildings, the large buildings. Well, they're just kind of, there's pretty chintzy stacks. I feel like this could definitely use a boost from a good expansion that really just adds some chunky new stuff. Because I feel like I'm already kind of getting to the point there, where I'm scoring above 30 points pretty regularly, and it's just like, I've gotten close to 40. You're always going to beat the AI with that kind of score. I have been. So anyway, I feel like you get yourself a good solid game and an awesome score, and I feel like I'm probably going to put this away and be done with it. So the variability came with this some extra income boats, but I heard terrible things about the income boats. They're just not balanced. They were just kind of terrible. So I don't know much about that, but it came with the game, and I'd never implemented them. The length of play is you can sit there and really think on those 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, but you can play this game pretty easily in about an hour, and it's not super difficult to reset each time. Just kind of clear off all those tiles, get your cubes back in the right. So, it takes about 5 minutes or so to reset, maybe a little longer, and then you play again. So you get a nice solid game in an hour. Once you know what you're doing and you're moving along, in the first couple rounds move really quick because you only got a couple workers, but then it really there's a plethora of stuff to consider once you get in that 3rd and 4th and 5th rounds, especially if you got more workers and you got these resources and you're converting things and you're manipulating things on your board with the free actions and stuff. Very cool. But still can be played. It's only 5 rounds long. It still can be played in a pretty condensed period of time there. The rule book, I felt like was very clean. I liked the way it was presented, and I got it. You read through that rule book a couple times, and I didn't find myself poring over a bunch of FAQ. It was well done, I think, as far as rule books go. The solo parameters are, again, I think I mentioned, they're just not exactly what I would like, but I thought it was adequate for someone to be able to play solo, but I do think it's fairly short-lived the way it's designed. It just sort of, it gives you some little extra variant stuff that you can do, but it's not very engaging. It's great to get in there entry level wise and play this game solo, but after that, you know, I feel like I need some more. I need something more to make me want to keep playing this game, and it's just not there. And the scoring is yeah, it's win or lose. So you've got an AI that's got a base points, and then there's a few, you know, sort of some stuff you can do to sort of keep that from scoring more points or a bunch more. But it just sort of, you can just kind of let it play out however it plays out. And if you, again, like I said, if you get 35 points or more, you're just going to win. So anyway, and it doesn't do a lot to get in your way. You'll have one of the biggest ways you're going to score is your end game scoring cards. You got to get one of those scoring cards, and so that gives you something to focus on with your island and how you build it. But it's you know, if you do that and you get sort of just normal helm points and your sailboats are flying around the board, you're gonna get up there in the 30-35 range, and you're gonna win. So the value of this game, I would say, is good. I think it's solid. I think I picked this up online for like $50 or $60. There's a lot of game in there. The components are very good looking. The cubes are pretty chintzy. You know, color is a little difficult to kind of judge between like the cloth and the food sometimes. It's pink and purple and, you know, but doable. And again, considering the cost of the game, I felt like there was plenty of good quality components there. Given the cost, I think the value is good with this game, and of course the value has to do with how much you like the game, and overall good value. I feel the overall enjoyability is great for the first 5 or so games, but I feel like after that it's sort of like I know I can get better at the game, but I know I just don't feel like I really want to continue to get better at the game, and that could just be, you know, stylistic. It's beautiful, but I feel like there's kind of a diminishing return once you get to a point and you sort of realize, okay, I get these workers, and then you get all these actions, and you kind of go this way and that way a little bit, but then it just kind of, again, I feel like I'm just going to get to a point where I have a rocking game, and it's sort of like, that's cool. Done with that. So there you have it. That's how I feel about Cooper Island, playing solo only. Please keep that in mind. And until next time, I appreciate you watching. I'm Board Game Rants, and I'm out.